Still just 2?
3.
Okay.
Just waiting on
Yeah, Miss
Raghaya.
Right, yeah, Rahaya
Okay. Mm-hmm.
to connect.
And
Good evening, Harper families or West Clayton. I hope some of you guys join us as well. Thank you for joining in tonight on this very informative. You're going to get some good information tonight on the housing moratorium, rental assistance, and all of that. I'm Ms. Coleman, the parent liaison from Harper Elementary. Parents, we would just ask you, or if you're a visitor, please click on the link that's in the chat box and sign in for us. And I'm going to give it to you, Ms. Lawrence, because I want you to have the most time, because I know this is so good. I know how much you taught me in the time that I was on the phone. So I'm going to give you the most time, and I'll just keep reposting the sign in and monitor the chat box for you. Go ahead. This is Miss, we call it Tisha Lawrence.
that's right.
Miss
You call me
Lawrence.
Tisha, yes, Miss Lawrence. I also go by Tisha Sanders as well. So it just depends on how you know me. So we're going to go ahead and get started. And I just want to say thank you guys for taking your time out today to be a part of this conversation, okay? Because we want to have a conversation with the community. And I also, what was it, the previous year, 2019 or 2020, we were trying to do some classes at Harper, also just to bring awareness as far as on the purchasing end. But right now, due to the, if you want to say the climate that we're in, we want to make sure that we have conversations with not just the parents at Harper and West Clayton, but with the community as a whole, to where this information can also be taken back to your family, to your friends, and just anyone that you may come in contact with. This is just a conversation so that if you have any questions or anything like that at all, while we're on here today, you can send me a private chat message if you would like. You would just go to your chat feature on Zoom and you can just click to the host and that message will come directly to us. I will also put a link in the chat later on in the conversation to where I will be having a Calendly link, which is an appointment link, okay? So that way you're able to actually have a more private conversation with myself, as well as I'm sure Janine will also share her information just in case you need to reach out to her. As far as myself, I am a real estate agent here in the Metro Atlanta area. I'm actually a Georgia Peach. Born and raised here, actually in Fulton County. I am a Grady baby. So I've been here for quite a minute, and I have lived in Fulton, I've lived in DeKalb, I've lived in Newton County, and now I currently reside in Clayton County and have been here for approximately 15 years, actually. And I enjoy talking with people in reference to just home ownership in general. I am also a pre and post housing counselor. So that way I am actually certified just to be able to talk with you about anything dealing with you prior to purchasing your home, while you're in your home, as well as after, if you're looking at departing from your home. And I will let Janine go ahead and introduce herself right now as well, because she has some information she wants to share with you today as well. And she has some credentials behind her name too.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Janine Hunter. I am a mortgage solutions specialist for Fairway Independent Mortgage Corporation. And what that means is that I'm a loan officer. I help home buyers secure financing to purchase a home, but I'm also a certified HUD housing counselor. So what that means, just like Tisha, I have the ability to do pre-purchase counseling as well as post-purchase counseling. And what I want to do tonight is share with you, what does the eviction moratorium mean, whether you are a renter, a homeowner or a senior, because there's no reason why anyone should be put out and have their stuff sitting at the curb. So when Tisha and I, started brainstorming about, what could we talk about, God always works, because this opportunity landed in her lap and we were like, we're going to just take it and roll with it. So I just want everybody to know that I have lost a house in foreclosure. There is no shame in my game. I've had to rebuild. And I really believe that what I do is a ministry, because I tell everybody there's nothing that you haven't been through or going through or will go through that I don't know how to get you out of. I just got to know what it is so that we can navigate it with as less stress as possible. So with that being said, Tisha, you ready to start? You're muted.
Yes, I am. And I do know you have slides as well, right? Your slides, are they more focused on mortgage?
They're more focused on mortgage, but I decided that I was going to save those slides and just do more of a conversation, as you said, because I don't want to overwhelm people, because this is a lot of information. And unfortunately, we have to deal with the mental as well as the financial side of it. So I just didn't want to overwhelm people. I thought we'd wait and do that later.
Okay. Well, I have a little PowerPoint that just going to highlight just a few things. It's not overly long, drawn out or anything, just in case there are some questions, and just have open dialogue or whatnot. And let me go ahead and share my screen so that I can start that PowerPoint with just some, hold on one second.
So while she's doing that, just want everybody to know that there is no such thing as a dumb question. We wanted to do this because we want you to feel comfortable talking about these situations with people who look like you. So too many times pride goes before the fall. And as a consequence, we get, we make bad decisions because we're listening to people who don't look like us. So we just decided to go ahead and do this. You ready?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, can you all see the screen?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So what is an eviction moratorium? Okay, so we want to just kind of put that out there. And why was it proposed? Now, the moratorium was intended to prevent landlords from evicting their tenants for a specified period, okay? However, rent payments may continue to pile up for the tenants. Now, the moratorium enacted by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention had been in place for months to help stem the spread of COVID-19. Now, the moratorium was only to protect tenants from being evicted for not paying rent, okay? It doesn't protect them from being evicted for other legal reasons. So what happened to the eviction moratorium? Well, on August the 26th, the Supreme Court ruled that the CDC has exceeded its authority. Now, this vote was voted to end this by 6-3, okay? So it was truly, it was close, right? But they did vote to go ahead and end that moratorium. Technically, that was not in their place to impose on the whole country, okay? Now, if federally imposed eviction moratorium is to continue, now the Congress must specifically authorize it. So in making that statement, we would need Congress to come together and figure out what they would like to do to try to extend some sort of moratorium to help ease the evictions that we are going to see. Now, President Biden is calling on entities that can prevent evictions to urgently act to prevent these, okay? What he's saying is he wants the cities, the counties, the states, the courts in your local area to kind of step in, as well as landlords, to step in and come up with their own solution, okay? So in that case, you can have a landlord that may decide that they would like to negotiate with you and to possibly and that's possibly allow you to stay. But as of right now, there is nothing in place that will actually keep a landlord from evicting you due to non-payment. So just keep in mind, there was a push for this, okay, when it came to the Supreme Court from landlords all across the country, because they are losing up to $19 billion each month, okay, in revenue as far as lost rent. To my next page here. So how does this affect you as a tenant? Well, tenants that were only protected due to non-payment of rent are no longer safe. So I want to repeat that again. Tenants that were only protected due to non-payment of rent are no longer safe. Now, landlords are able to file a dispossessory affidavit via the internet in Clayton County. So they don't even have to get up and go down to the magistrate's court to actually file it. They can do it easily from the internet. And eviction can be closer than once realized, okay?
Tisha, before you go on, can you explain what a dispossessory affidavit is, please?
Yes, so that was going to be also on my next page as well.
Okay.
So what happens is, on this page, I am talking about what is going to happen in that eviction process, right?
Okay.
So to talk about this dispossessory affidavit that eventually goes to a dispossessory warrant. So the landlord should send a demand letter, okay? So at some point, if you've received a letter from your landlord, you need to open them up and you need to read them, okay? One of the main things that we have found in conversations with other landlords is that many tenants, obviously we know for good reasons, but they may be a little bit timid in discussing the issue at hand with the landlord. But in most cases, that is obviously going to make the landlord a little bit more less forgiving when it's time to actually negotiate. So if you have received a letter in the mail that came from your landlord, please read it and see about getting in touch with your landlord. Now, the landlord is able to file the dispossessory affidavit after they have done their due diligence in sending you a demand letter, okay? Now, I want to make sure that I get this person in. I think someone was trying to come in. Are you able to see that person, Janine?
Yeah, I'll let someone in for you.
You did? Okay. I was just making sure because it went away. Okay. I was like, what happened? Okay. So, so what happens? They file the dispossessory affidavit, okay? And the tenant at that point will be served with in a fashion of tack and mail or personal service, okay? So tack and mail is just like what you've normally seen on some of the television shows where they come and they affix the dispossessory warrant on the door. And they also have to mail it as well. So there are two things that the landlord has to do, or they can order personal service. And with that personal service, you can have someone personally actually coming to give you that dispossessory warrant in hand. Once you receive this dispossessory warrant, this document, okay, you need to read it, whether it comes in the mail or if it's on your door. Please read it. Don't shy away from it. Do not throw it into the trash, okay? You as the tenant, you have 7 days in order to respond to this notice that you have just received, okay? If you want to respond, you need to respond within those 7 days. Should you choose not to respond, The landlord will look forward to receiving what is called a writ of possession. A writ of possession is what is allowing the landlord to move forward and have sheriff service to come by, and they hire people to help move your items out of the home, okay? Now, if a tenant does respond, you have a court date that will be set to go before the judge, and the judge will then make that decision, okay? But if you do not respond within those 7 days to the court, when you receive that dispossessory warrant on the 8th day, that person, the landlord, will be looking to receive a writ of possession, okay? So if you do respond, you will receive a court date. And at that point, the judge will have the right to determine whether or not they will do a writ of possession, or they may decide for you all to have mediation, okay? So you can have mediation, which I think more of the courts more than likely may go that route, just to try to lessen the amount of evictions, because they're going to be over flooded, okay? And if that is the case, what you need to understand is when you go into mediation and you sign your name on another document in order to keep your status as a tenant with this landlord, what is on those documents will stand. You cannot default on what will be in that mediation after that point, because you will not come back to the court, okay? Now, if this is the tenant's second dispossessory in 12 months, writ of possession is imminent. Let me repeat that again. If this is the tenant's second dispossessory with this landlord in 12 months, the writ of possession is imminent, okay? So if you have had a dispossessory warrant served to you via the courts, obviously, you are at risk for not being able to negotiate or come or have an agreement via mediation when your landlord has to file dispossessory on you the second time. There will be no going before the judge the second time, okay? Now, we're going to talk about, is there any help? Now, I'm sure you have seen things on Facebook. You've seen information just on the internet in general, papers you may have received in the mail, watching television about all of this money that has been approved and sent out to all of the states, okay? So there is money that is available. Now you can see the flyer to the left. This flyer is actually on the websites as well that I have listed here, okay? And that is relief.claytoncountyga.gov. Also, you can contact HUD at claytoncountyga.gov. That is a new email address. I spoke with Lori today at Clayton County HUD, and she stated that she mans that email address that was just set up. And also when you call over there, more than likely you will speak to Lori. And she stated that if you are looking for mortgage assistance and utility assistance, you can also email there, as well as when you apply via relief.claytoncountyga.gov, and you say you're looking for mortgage and not rent assistance or utility, once they receive that application on the back end, they will divide it up and send it to the appropriate department. You can also go to 211.gov or call 211. They will have a list, they always do, how they are a wealth of knowledge as far as resources that are available in your area. So please call that number or go to that website for additional ways outside of the subsidy here that may be able to assist you. Also, if you are in a situation to where you are facing eviction, right? You need to go to the website that is www.georgialegalaid.gov, okay? You need to go to that website and also read up about tenants and landlords. You may also give them a call because legal aid offers free pro bono assistance via the phone, okay? So don't sit in silence. There are people that are there to talk with you and to discuss your situation with you to see whether or not there is a way to assist you out of this situation, okay? Also, if you receive Section 8, you have public housing or anything like that, the money to assist those renters is going to come through the website georgiarentalassistance.ga.gov. Okay, that's a little bit different than going through relief.claytoncountyga.gov in those situations. Now, after talking to the HUD representative today in Clayton County, she wanted to stress this. Start searching right now for your paperwork, okay? Paperwork, paperwork, paperwork. What she stated to me was, now there was a website or a portal that was up a few months ago, and they moved to a different portal. So now when you go to relief.claytoncountyga.gov, you need to register on that website, okay? You need to make sure that you are utilizing an email address that you have access to. So make sure your email address is entered correctly, because once you begin to upload your information into that portal, if there is anything that is missing or they need to communicate with you and let you know that you need to send more documents in, they will be doing this via email. So check your spam, check your normal inbox in Gmail, click your all mail, all of that promotions, just checking it on a regular, because they may send an email. And she did state that if there's a length of time that goes by and your file is actually incomplete, they will not be able to process.
You froze, Tisha.
Say it again. Can you see me now?
Yes.
Okay. So she was really making sure that I stress that, okay? And when we say documents, they're looking for a lot of things. Social Security cards. Anyone that anyone that lives in your household, I was told you need Social Security cards, possibly birth certificates, you need your lease. There are a lot of things that you're going to need to have, and you need to start searching for that now. So she did press upon that, that many people unfortunately may miss this money, okay, if they do not have their paperwork. And also keep in mind, there is an income limit, and it is, I believe, 80%, of the median income. So you would have to see whether or not you actually qualify based off of that median income, okay? So if you have exceeded that median income, more than likely you will not qualify for this relief money, okay? That's why we have to do our homework and make sure that you are eligible for this money. Did someone have their hand raised earlier?
Yes, I did.
Yes, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for holding this meeting. It's been informative thus far. I did, however, wanted to go back to what you said about the relief.claytoncountygeorgia.gov.
Mhm.
This is relief for renters, right?
So what she stated is that that application through that portal, there should be an option, she stated, to say you need help with mortgage, okay? Or if you need help with rent. Once they receive the application, they will send your mortgage application to the department that it needs to go to. Because right now, they do not have the separate portal set up as of yet for the mortgage side. So if you go online and you're searching for it on the relief.claytoncountyga.gov site, and you scroll to the bottom, and to the right is going to talk about mortgage. When you click on it, it's going to say that the portal is not available at this time, and to send an email to HUD@claytoncountyga.gov. You can send an email there and it will go to Lori, or you can also fill out that application and it will be sent to the correct department, because there is no separate application right now for mortgage. That's what I was just told by Linda Boswell, who is one of the, I think, head HUD person over in Clayton County. That's what she
Okay.
said today.
Yeah, I wouldn't be looking for mortgage. I would just be looking for regular renters. That's why I was asking to make sure that we're covered as well.
Yes, both, all three actually, utility assistance as well with that application, and they will make sure that it gets to, which department it needs to go to.
Okay, and the last question I have, I was just writing down the qualifications. So it says that you have to be negatively affected by COVID. What would be some of those reasons? Like, how do you prove that you're negatively affected by COVID?
Well, that is definitely going to be up to how you explain that. See, a lot
Gotcha.
of these things are going to be really, when you look at it, is going to be up to interpretation as far as how you explain how you were negatively affected. So on those sites, when you read on those websites, it doesn't go into detail,
Mm-hmm.
about it. So I would think really long and hard on whether or not you truly have a case of being negatively affected via COVID. Now, that could include a lot of different ways, that
Right.
you're affected, I should say.
Thank you.
You're
Tisha,
welcome.
would that be like if you lost your job due to COVID in the shutdown, or if you got sick with COVID and could not work and have some lasting, or
I'm
this just kind
thinking
of
that
open?
I'm thinking that it would include all of that, because that would be negatively affected, by COVID.
Or you
It's just
couldn't
that
have childcare because you had to stay at home with your kids when school. Okay, so it just depends on how you explain
I
that.
believe so, yes, because,
Okay.
and we have to think about this as well. And Janine and I, we were, also talking about this over these past few weeks, right? There are so many people that are negatively affected, right? That may need assistance with rent and with mortgage. The applicants, for the services, that's going to be a long list of people. And so as of right now, it is kind of slow with this money reaching the landlords, even after someone, applies, and then they have to wait, and then approved. Then you're waiting again, right? For the check to make it to the landlord. And Janine, can you share if you have heard of landlords that sometimes have decided not to accept these checks?
Yeah, yes, I have. What I have read and researched and have heard through property managers is that depending upon the source of the money, the landlords are refusing. So for example, they don't want to deal with your Salvation Armies, your United Ways, your philanthropic organizations. They're also not wanting to take the money if they feel like there's some kind of stipulation to keep affordable housing. So they are making the decision to forego accepting the money from their current tenant because they know just due to the housing shortage, they can command a higher rent payment out there on the open market. So that's why it's very important when you're going through this process, as Tisha said, to be in contact with your landlord, because you want to make sure that you are applying for money that your landlord's going to accept, because if they don't accept it, then you've wasted valuable time going through this process.
Yes. And also when you go on to the site, you may find that the landlord can also initiate the application as well. However, like I stated before, it is still the tenant that is going to have to prove that they qualify based on all of the qualifications in order for the landlord to even receive that money. So just because you are behind does not necessarily mean you actually qualify for this money. Now, if the money is coming from the pool of federal money, you can only receive a payout one time. So when you are applying with different places, you need to find out how the money was received that they were given out, because you cannot accept, payment from Clayton County, then payment, from somewhere else, and it just so happened to have come from that federal money. They say you can only receive payment from one place.
Tisha, I had a question about you said if your salary is at a certain level, and say, for instance, you don't fit the criteria, even though you were not able to make your rent or your mortgage,
Yes.
Is it arbitrarily just eviction? They can evict you for that?
So, especially now, because let's go back to when COVID was really, in its infancy. You had a lot of courts that were closed, like completely closed, right? You were not able to more than likely file anything because no one was going to be there, to accept. And then you have where we started having the moratorium, right, from the CDC. And of course, it ended on July the 31st. And that's when they jumped back again and said, let's extend it. And so with all the pushback from landlords and lawyers, even the real estate industry were pushing for there to be a release, of this eviction moratorium, okay? So now that the courts are open, it really does put renters in a tight spot, because at some point prior, some landlords were probably a little bit iffy on whether or not they should have filed for the eviction. And now knowing that, there is no protection whatsoever as far as your eviction is concerned, yes, you are at risk for receiving a dispossessory, warrant notice. Because we have to also look at this. This was only, as far as CDC, it was only really to protect people that were only going to be evicted based solely on non-payment. You have a lot of people that did not know during the moratorium that they could be evicted for other things. So that's why it's prudent that you read your lease and you read some of those things that could really get you kicked out. Destruction of property, being a nuisance, to your neighbors. things like that. So there were a lot of people to where they could have been behind at the same time. But if that landlord found that loophole, do you get what I mean? And then they can go ahead and file for whatever the other reason was, but also put down the amount of money that you were deficient by at the same time. And in some cases, that person could have been evicted, and it had literally initially nothing to do with the fact that they were behind. But now that there is no protection whatsoever, this is why we wanted to make sure we had some sort of conversation with the community, so that you understand if you're receiving notices from your landlord, you need to read them. You need to talk to your landlord. You know, you need to show up if you're called to court. And number one, you will have to answer. Okay. If you do not answer and those 7 days go by, they can get a writ of possession. And I don't know with everyone on the call, I am not sure where everyone is originally from. But in the state of Georgia, when you are evicted and the sheriffs come, the sheriffs can come when you're at home. The sheriffs can come. You may have your children, you know, at home. You could be at work. They could be, you know, there. And if they come, they come. Everything has to leave the house. Anyone that's in the house on that day, okay? All of your furniture and everything is taken out of the house and it is set on the lawn, okay? So if you are from a different state and you have never seen or experienced firsthand an eviction in a state of Georgia, it can be startling, okay? So I wanted to make sure that I bring that up because I know we have, you know, people that may have moved here from other states and, you know, they kind of really don't do it like that in many other states. But so that's what happens here. So all of your belongings, everything, doesn't matter if it's raining, doesn't matter what the weather is. They have to set it on that front lawn. So now, as Janine and I have been talking over these past few weeks, thinking of things that people may need to be thinking about, okay? If you're in this situation, all right? Number one, you need to talk to somebody, okay? Because keeping all of that in is really not healthy, all right? We know it's a scary time, okay? But you need to find someone to talk about this situation with. And start thinking about, if you're in this situation, what moves do I need to be making right now? Because we understand it's not just you. All of you that are actually on this call, you at least have at least one child that's in Clayton County Public School System. And, you know, obviously at Harper, you know, we care about the kids, all right? And since we care about the kids, we care about you too. We care about your neighbors, okay? We care about the grandparents that typically have to step in and help you with your child. You know, so right now it is just really digesting this, because with this ruling that occurred on Thursday, I think it was the 26th. Mm-hmm. Monday hit today. Today is Monday. Mm-hmm. Can you imagine how many filings were made all across the country? Okay. Janine, you have anything you want to add here?
Sure. I want to go back to that question as it relates to, you know, how am I impacted by COVID? From a lending perspective, and I'm pretty sure from a rental assistance perspective, they're going to be looking at the following things. They're going to be looking at your income. So they're going to want to see your pay stubs. They're going to want to see, you know, 30 days worth of pay stubs. They're going to want to see your W-2s. They're going to want to see your bank statements. So if you're saying that I've had a loss of income, yet your W-2s show that you had sufficient income in order to pay that lease agreement, you've lost the argument for not being able to pay that lease agreement. And I'm just keeping it 100. If it's a situation where, like, I was impacted, my mom was in the end stages of cancer, I could not work because she was at home on hospice. I kept the obituary, I kept the documents related to her being in hospice, because in my letter of explanation, I can prove that I did not work for X amount of time because of the fact that I was taking care of a parent going through hospice. I'm in the mortgage industry. I'm a commissioned salesperson. So even though 2020 was record year for mortgage business, my income didn't show that because of the population that I service. I service first-time home buyers who need down payment assistance. So I say all that to say this: if you've got the documentation to back up your story makes sense. But if your documentation is contrary to the documentation, you're fighting a losing battle. So that's why we wanted to have this one-on-one conversation with you and say, look, you know, this is where you're at. Be honest with yourself and say, you know what, if I messed up, I took advantage of the program, I did, but now's the time for me to pivot and make the smart decision to move my family forward. Because if this does not happen the way that I want it to happen, and Jesus does deliver, he always does have a ram in the bush, but sometimes that ram in the bush is not what we want to see or feel, then you don't want to put yourself in a situation like Tisha's saying, where you get that dispossessory affidavit and you have no place to go, because tens of thousands of people are going to be moving across the Atlanta metro area. And what we know right now, because I was talking to a girlfriend earlier today, is that there is a 60-day wait for apartments. And that's for people without any kind of blemish on their record. So you multiply that by the number of people who are going to have these blemishes on your record, because once you go through that process, if the judge does not rule in your favor and rules in the landlord's favor, what that creates is what is called a judgment or a collection, which is a negative blemish on your rental history. And the reason why this is so important is the fact that the number of people who will rent to you with this blemish becomes drastically smaller. And due to the fact that landlords have not, especially your private landlords, your small mom and pops who owns the onesie, twosie, threesie properties, because of the fact that they are getting ready to lose their properties due to foreclosure, because of the fact that people have not been paying rent, your only alternative is going to go to the larger institutional investors, who are not going to take people who have fresh collections or fresh judgments on their credit bureau reports. They're not going to do it. It's not in their business model to do it. So that's why we want to have this honest conversation with you, to get you to thinking, okay, what do I need to do? How do I navigate this space? Because time is not your friend in this particular space. Time is your enemy. And, you know, it's getting ready to get cold. It's going to be the holidays. You don't want to be dealing with all this mental anguish going to celebrate Jesus is the reason for the season and your stuff sitting out on the curb. Tisha.
Tisha, I had, you mentioned bank statements. When they're looking at the bank statements, are they looking at deposits of income, or are they looking at your behavior?
Both. We are looking at both. And that's what is so, from a mortgage perspective, that is why I have to coach my buyers on their lifestyles. Because if you're saying you have a decrease in income, and I'm not saying this to be funny, but I have actually seen this on people's bank statements. When I can see that you're going to the liquor store every week, you're going to do retail therapy every week, you're eating out every day, you're going to the weed man every week, then you're basically, what that bank statement says is that you can't manage your finances. And that's what this money is about, okay, we have an X amount of money, we have a large pool of people, We have to get as much money into these people's hands as we possibly can. So we're going to start making the decision. Okay, this person wasn't responsible. We're not going to give them that money because this person was responsible. They had a hardship. They deserve the money. So it's going to be subjective. There's no way that you can take the human nature out of this process. And that's why we wanted to have the conversation so people can start getting stuff cleaned up now. Tisha, we can't hear you.
I was just saying, yeah,
Thank you.
that's right. And I also would like to recognize someone on the call, and I know she's rolling her eyes right about now, but I want to recognize Jill Dorset. She is one of my real estate friends that is actually in the state of Florida right now. She is also a principal at a charter school right now, going to be starting in Fort Lauderdale very soon. And I asked her a question is, did we miss anything? Okay. And she replied that we need to make sure that you all understand the long-term also effect of what Janine was just talking about, which is when you receive these judgments and you get this eviction, once this eviction and this judgment hits your file, it's not only going to affect you, as far as, because technically you're marketing yourself when you go and apply for a rental, right? So this is technically your marketability. And when it comes down to it, it's going to obviously negatively affect you in that case. It is also going to negatively affect you if you are looking at purchasing a home within the next few years, right? I'm not trying to say that just because you're in this situation, right, to just beat down on yourself, okay? What I'm saying is just be cognizant, right? Being cognizant of what all of this actually means so that you can actually have a plan of action, okay? As you see up here, it says Tisha Lawrence, the win agent, on whichever side you all see it on. That's exactly what it means. It's about when you are ready, right? So don't worry about, I can't do this and I can't do that. Let's set the plan. Let's be in preparation mode for whatever it is, whether it's to get back on your feet for a rental, okay? Or whether it's, I want to buy again, because you may be someone on the call that has a mortgage, okay? Because there is money for people that have a mortgage. So, with that being said, we want to make sure that you have a long-term plan, right? To try to keep your credit in the
Protected.
best. Yes. Just to keep it protected the best way that you can. So that's why we're also having this conversation. I think, Jill, you had your hand raised. You wanted to say something?
I do, and thank you. This is so informative. I think I'm gonna plan a webinar down here because, as Tisha and Janine mentioned, this is a nationwide crisis that's upon us right now. But yeah, I am a former elementary, middle, and high school principal, and I was just offered a position I didn't apply for, so I guess I'm jumping back in after Labor Day. But I wanted to just share with the community members that are on the call something to think about if you're one of those individuals whose documentation may be contrary to whatever your reason is, as Janine stated, where your W-2s reflect that you could afford to pay your rent, but you didn't pay your rent. My advisement to you would be to go back and retro pay your landlord now in full and begin now looking for another place because you don't want that eviction on your record. If you can't afford it, go back and retroactively pay them now in full and begin looking for another place to live because you don't want that eviction on your record. Okay, that's all I want to share.
Thank you for that. Thank you.
And Tisha, before we go on to that point, when you get a collection of that size on your credit bureau report, I mean, we're not talking about $500 or $600 here. If your rent is $1,000 a month and you haven't paid rent in the last 18 months, we're looking at a debt of at least $18,000. That's the minimum. That does not include court costs, any other associated fees that the landlord might want judgment for. Most people are not in a position, as Ms. Jill said, to go back and pay $18,000. What that means is that that is then going to become a permanent record on your credit bureau report. So what is the impact of that? The impact of that is whenever you go to buy a car and they pull your credit bureau report, and they're going to pull all 3 bureaus, they're going to see this collection on your credit bureau report for $18,000. What does that mean? That means that you will pay a higher interest rate on your car loan when you could have qualified for a $400 payment. You're going to be qualified for a $600 or $700 payment because of the amount of the collection and the fact that it is on there. Number 2, credit repair specialists are going to tell you, oh, if you pay me $1,500, I can get it deleted off your credit bureau report. What I want to tell you is they're right. They can get it deleted off your credit bureau report. But when you come to me looking for a mortgage, guess what? I'm going to find it. And when I find it, because I have access to systems that the credit repair specialists do not have access to, I'm going to hit you with 5% of that collection. So on $18,000, you're looking at almost a $900 payment. So when you say, oh, Janine, I want a $250,000 house there in Clayton County and I want to pay $1,200 a month, I'm be like, wait a minute. We got to first cover this $900 from this old collection, which means if you have student loans and a car note, guess what? That means you're not going to qualify for the home. So that's why we are sounding this alarm, and we are saying it's fire engine hot. This is a 3-alarm, 4-alarm fire, because we don't want your ability for generational wealth to be impacted by something that you have the ability to be in the front of and work with your landlord on. And so many times this is called humble pie. And we as people, we want to get indignant and get an attitude and all this kind of stuff because we feel like we in the right, and the government offered this program and blah 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 blah. In this particular situation, we may have to eat some humble pie, because at the end of the day, you want your credit protected, and that's more important than your feelings at this point. So I'm not saying that to be harsh. I'm just saying that it's the reality of the world in which we're dealing with. We're dealing with finances. And right now there's a saying that when white America gets a cold, Black America gets pneumonia. Well, right now, Black America has COVID-19 and we're on a ventilator. So we got to do everything that we possibly can in order to save our community, because they don't care about saving our community. Only the people in our community care about saving our community.
I have another question, teacher. With this, okay, say for instance, someone is approved, do all the paperwork, give everything in, finish the application. Is it guaranteed that, say for instance, it's approved, is it on a percentage amount? Is everything taken care of, or that could be from case to case? Like if my mortgage was $900 a month, but based on all of the stuff that I gave in, the landlord, it would only cover $600, and I'm still responsible for $300. Could that happen, or is it all covered, or it just depends on what situation you're in?
Well, based on a phone call, well, actually it was a Zoom that I was on approximately 2 weeks ago now. And what was stated at that time. So keep in mind, things like this change as far as the amount and all that. So just from 2 weeks ago, The lady stated that $10,000 was the max per household. Now, that's what she said 2 weeks ago. And that was in reference to, I don't know if that's specific to Clayton County, right? DeKalb, HUD, could have said something else maybe, but that's what she said. She said 10,000. Now, by the time they start approving you and you get over 10, praise them, but that's what she said, 2 weeks ago. And I think people need to understand also that if you receive this money, this is to pay back rent. This isn't to pay anything in the future. So you still have to be real with yourself on whether or not you are actually able to possibly continue if the lease is still in place, right? Most people may be out of their lease because of how long, everything was going on. But if you are still in your lease, you may not necessarily be able to continue making those additional payments. So you have to think about that. You may also have to think about the fact that even if by chance you pay the past due and you still had time left on your lease, and then you pay for going forward, it's still going to be up to your landlord on whether or not they want to renew with you. So it's one of those situations to where we're just saying be on guard, okay? In every situation, just be on guard. I was told a story when I talked to Lori today, and she gets phone calls, obviously, from a lot of people because it's the HUD, department. She stated she got a call from someone that was looking for assistance, like, what do I do now? Unfortunately, at that point of the phone call, she had been evicted and had a U-Haul truck with her items in the U-Haul truck. And I guess she was pretty much asking, where can I go? She didn't have a place to go. So Lori did tell me that in Clayton County, there is a place that is called Calvary. That's called Calvary. And it's a refuge. And she said they provide overnight stay. So when I went on the website, I think it's like 6 p.m., to 6 a.m. And it says you get 3 meals or whatnot while you're there. Of course, we know that's temporary, but I believe in Clayton County, and I know I've read on Facebook, different groups or whatnot, people making a statement that is true. It is hard to find a rental in Clayton County. It is hard to find a rental that is actually affordable, so it makes it a little bit more difficult. Even those people that have a lease, read your lease. If your lease says that your landlord can give you 60 days notice at any time during the lease, letting you know this is your notice to leave when you thought you had a lease till December, and all of a sudden you get a notice saying, here's your 60 days. More than likely they're selling the home and they're giving you 60 days in order to leave. Well, now you have to leave before the end of your lease, right? So there are things like this that's going on that we just want people pull that lease out and start reading that lease and see what it says. Even if you're current, read the lease and see what it says, so that you're always kind of like in preparation mode, I shall say. Things that we need to be thinking about if you are now realizing or have realized prior that you may need to be moving, okay? Take that few minutes to digest it and then get to work. Number one, you will have to be looking at renting some sort of U-Haul, or some type of truck for moving. You are going to need people to assist you. You are going to be constantly looking for a place for you and your children. You may, unfortunately, have to live with some family just for a little while, if having a plan at least to try to make some moves while you're there. It may include going into one of the shelters that may be able to assist you temporarily. It may also include you having to rent a storage unit, okay? So, well, you know, we don't, there's so much loss that's going to be occurring, and a lot of it is really going to be emotional, obviously, impact, but at least think of trying not to lose all of your belongings, okay? You know, going through something like this can be almost like going through a fire, you know, the stress of it, you know, it could be like going through a fire where you lost everything. And so just start thinking about those things, okay? If you're needing to make a move, start calling around now, because the storage units will start to fill up. People are putting money into storage units. They're purchasing them. They're renovating them. It's been going on over this past year because they're getting ready for this deluge of people that are going to need some sort of storage. There are also websites that are offering for people to be able to rent a space in their driveway, or rent the storage unit in their backyard, or rent space, you know, within their garage, just to be able to house. So what I'm saying is just prepare, okay? Just start thinking of the preparation of this, and you will make it through it. It's not going to last forever, but it is going to be a little bit more difficult because of dealing, you know, with the climate in which we are in. But talk to people, talk to people, talk to people. Don't keep it in. Reach out to some family, reach out to some friends, and just let them know, I think I might need some help. Even if it's not monetary, okay? That you may need some help. You may need someone to talk to, someone to help bounce ideas off of, okay? Some things you may not have thought about, some places you may not have known existed, somebody else may. But if we keep it bottled up, you may not, you know, find out about these things. Is there anyone that has any questions?
I had another question as you were talking. With the moratorium being in place and people have not paid their rent or mortgage, is it marked on their credit report, like, you know, you're 30 days late, 60, 90, is that currently being marked, or does the moratorium protect that for a certain amount of time? Or do you know?
From a mortgage perspective, it is not reporting on their credit bureau reports as of this date, but as the lenders wind down their programs, they may start to report that negative history going forward on the credit bureau report.
Thank you.
And that is, I'm not sure if we have any homeowners on the call today. There is money, as we just stated, if you were looking for assistance with your mortgage payments. In this market, guys, if you own a home right now, there should be almost no reason that you should be giving your equity away by having a foreclosure. I think Janine can touch on that a little bit from, you know, the mortgage standpoint as well. There should be no reason right now.
Thank you so much for Tisha. Now I'm gonna transition to home buyers, or homeowners, I should say. So the first thing that you as a homeowner should do is first find out what type of mortgage you have. And what I mean by that is it conventional? Is it FHA? Is it VA? Or is it USDA? Once you find out what type of mortgage you have, you can then talk to your lender about the options to bring the mortgage current. But if you don't know what kind of mortgage you have and you're going around here asking for assistance, you could be asking for assistance that is not going to be able to help you. So for those of you, I'm gonna start first with conventional. Conventional is the mortgage that everybody loves because, you know, the fact that, you know, you can get PMI, private mortgage insurance, canceled once you have a 20% equity position in your home. Most first-time home buyers will go FHA, but some are fortunate enough to go conventional. What we have found thus far, based upon what is out there as far as guidance, is that if you do have a conventional mortgage, they are going to work with you. But the main thing that you have to do is, number one, contact your lender, because if you've been quiet these past 18 months and just been participating in the forbearance program and your lender has not heard from you, once the lender starts to roll you off of the program, you're going to be in a situation where they're going to say, okay, do you have the money to bring this current? If you don't, what do you plan to do? So you need to have that conversation on the front end, because again, there are over 2.3 million people right now currently active in forbearance programs. So you want to make sure that you're on the front end and talking to your loan company, because this is not going to be a quick process. This is just like qualifying for the home mortgage. So just like we asked you for your bank statements, your pay stubs, your W-2s, your 401k, in order to qualify you for any of this money that's out here, we're going to be asking you for that same documentation. So that's why Tisha said it's important for you to go ahead and get that toolkit together and get all your documents and everything together now, because as you go through this process, it can take up to 90 to 120 days for you to get fully through this process. And during this process, you're going to have to email, fax, send documents multiple times. So it's best just to have it all in a file folder, keep adding pay stubs and bank statements to that file folder, so that when they call and say, oh, I need this piece of paper, you can just immediately go to Kinko's or scan it via your cell phone and send it to them. You don't have to worry about having to go look for it, because as I said, time is of the essence. If you're fortunate enough to be in the Govy programs, which are your FHA, VA, and USDA, they're going to be more favorable in helping you to stay in your home, because in any case, a lender does not want to get the property back. Just from the standpoint, they've got to go through the cost of cleaning it out after you leave and then going through the process of reselling it. So they are going to do everything in their power in order to help you to stay in a home. But again, it has to make sense. So like I started out this program about an hour ago, I said, I've lost a home in foreclosure. I know what it feels like. Right now, my house is in forbearance because again, I had situations, life happened. I am going through this process right now. So I had to complete the application. I have an FHA mortgage. So because I have an FHA mortgage, there are 5 processes that they must go through before they can say, okay, we can't do anything. We have to go for a foreclosure. So the first thing that they're going to do is, number one, ask you, is this a situation of whereas you can get caught up in 1 to 3 months? That is considered a temporary forbearance. If you can do that, you can get caught up in 3 months. Again, no impacts to the credit score, you're good. If you feel like, okay, this is going to take longer than 3 to 6 months, they will put you on what is called a formal forbearance program. In that point, they will basically either rewrite the terms of the loan for those 12 months, or they will then forward you on to what is called their other loss mitigation programs, which is a more in-depth underwriting process. So in either case, once they've exhausted the first 2 options, they're going to look at, okay, is this a situation of unemployment? Which is why, again, if you have a situation where as you can prove that you were unemployed for 6 or 9 months or the whole time in COVID, then you can apply under that specific program. However, FHA did come out with 2 additional programs specifically related to COVID. They can do what is called a partial claim, which is that mortgage insurance that everybody hates paying each month, what they will do is they will take and roll all that back end money back onto the back end of the mortgage. So for example, if you are $40,000 behind, they will take and put a $40,000 mortgage on your house. So you'll have a first mortgage of what your current mortgage is. Then they'll put a second mortgage on there for the 40. You'll be back to being able to make your current payments. If that option doesn't work, then they say, okay, let's go and let's look at a short sale. So that's when we contact a person such as Tisha and say, okay, you know, we've exhausted all the programs that, you know, FHA has. They're saying at this point, you know, I want a short sale because I want to protect my credit. Because the thing about a foreclosure is once you go through a foreclosure, it is 7 years before you can get another house via conventional, and it's 3 years and a day for FHA. It's 3 years for VA, and I think it's 3 years for USDA, because VA, USDA, and FHA, they all mirror each other. So in this particular situation, you don't want to leave money on the table. You don't want to leave credit on the table. So that's why we call Tisha and say, hey, Tisha, you know, values have appreciated, you know, I owe 150. You're saying the house is worth, you know, 250, you know, can I sell it for 120, 175? Therefore, you're getting money out of the transaction. You're getting at least, you know, 15 after expenses to be able to regroup and move on to your next phase. Or it might be a situation where you decide, oh, you know, I'm gonna wait for Jesus to work it out, and they end up setting yourself on the curb. And that is called a true foreclosure, because you've gone all the way through the process. You chose not to do anything because you kept hoping that somebody was gonna send you the life rope, the rafter, and all this kind of stuff. We sent you all that stuff. You decided not to take advantage of it. And then we go through the foreclosure process. So as I said, with your Govy mortgages, there are at least 5 processes that they must go through before they actually do the formal foreclosure. That's why it's important for you to talk to your lender, find out what your options are and what you qualify for. So for example, if you've been in a forbearance now for 12 to 18 months, you're pretty much not going to get options 1 and 2, because if you had the money, you would have paid it. So what they're going to do is look at rewriting your loan, doing what is called a loan modification, where they're either going to extend the term or lower the interest rate, or possibly do both in order to keep you into the home, or they're going to do the partial claim or talk about doing the short sale. So that's why it's imperative that you get in touch with your lender. I can't stress this enough, because again, this is not a quick process. So you don't want to get the sheriff's notice at the door talking about your sheriff's sales date is on Tuesday, and then you want to call your lender and say, what can I do to save my house? It's too late at that point. You know right now what your finances look like. You know what you're going to be able to do, what you can't do. So as I said, you never want to be in a situation where you're leaving money on the table. And then for the seniors, there is absolutely no reason for a senior citizen to lose their home. We have a product which is called a reverse mortgage, and most people hear reverse mortgage and they're like, oh no, this is not what we want to do. Oh no, this is bad for the senior. Okay, let me share some information with you. Senior citizens leave their homes for their children because they believe that it's a family legacy, and they believe that the children are going to, you know, keep the house as the family house because this is where all the memories are had, blah, 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 blah. Too many times I have been involved in transactions where as soon as you put mama 6 feet under or put daddy 6 feet under, the house immediately goes on the market because everybody's trying to get the quote unquote inheritance. In this particular situation for seniors, if they're in a situation where they have at least a 50 to an 80% equity position in the home, it's much better for them to be able to age in place. And what we mean by that is continue to live their life in their home, as opposed to, you know, leaving the legacy for the children, because there have been studies that have proven that seniors don't deal well with change. And when you take them out of their environment, sometimes that hastens them to the grave because they're in a completely, you know, new environment. They have no friends. their house and their neighborhood is who they are. So when you take them out of that situation, it's just too much, and it just, you know, propels their health issues, or compounds their health issues, I should say. So there is no reason why, if a senior citizen has, you know, a free and clear house, or a house that is almost, the mortgage is almost paid off, and they haven't had the funds to pay this last little bit of money, there's no reason why they should lose their home, because we do have a product that will be able to help that senior stay in the home. And again, depending upon what the value of the property is, the heirs do have up to 6 months after the last senior leaves the home in order to repurchase the family home, or they can still sell it. Now, they may not get all of the proceeds, but the main thing is that, you know, the senior is protected, they're in their environment, they're able to maintain a quality of life, and then the heirs do get something. So just wanted to share that with you. Again, know that there, you know, is a lot of different scenarios of people that are out there. We just want to give you a high level tonight as far as what can be done. But as I said, really just sound the 911 or 411 or whatever it's called alarm, saying you've got to do something. Complacency is not an option here, because as I said, you will get set out on the street. Tisha? Okay, you're on mute. Ms. Coleman?
Yes.
You have any questions or comments?
Does anyone else have any questions? You have these people who are so well endowed with the education that you need. We just want to thank you all for coming on to get this valuable information. I know it is so needed in our community, and I do want to schedule another one. But while you have them here, parents or stakeholders or community visitors, you can ask them any questions at this time before we let them go.
Ms.
Go ahead.
Coleman,
Yes, go ahead, Ms.
I
Rod.
just want to say thank you for them because of all the resources they provided to us. But I just have a question for Ms. Tisha and Ms. Hunter. Is it the right time now to buy a house for a first-time home buyer?
Yes, it is, because right now rates are still relatively low. They are in the lower 3s. But in this particular market, first-time home buyers have to reset their expectations. And what I mean by that is what they feel their money can buy and what the market is actually bearing are two different animals. So we always coach people that you're buying your first investment property, especially if you're anticipating the need for down payment assistance and closing cost assistance, because with that, that's going to afford you the ability to go to the next level home in about 5 to 7 years and have some equity in order to work with. But if you're trying to get in with minimum funds down, what you want to do is just have a nice, decent place that is providing shelter. Because Tisha can have said what was 180, you know, a year ago is now 250.
Right.
Oh, yes.
That's correct. I would just say, you know, when it comes to buying and selling real estate, it doesn't matter what the market is doing. There is always a buyer and there is always a seller. Okay. Values may be different, you know, purchase prices and all that may be different, but look at all the people that made out big time back between 2008, you know, and so on at that point in time. Somebody was able to take advantage of what was going on at the time. So really kind of doesn't matter because, and let me say this, to me, buying a house, renting, having a place to stay, it's just having a place to stay, right? That's the first thing we need to have, is a secure place to live. Now, you can turn around and decide at some point, you know what, this renting is for the birds, right? But if you have a secure place to stay right now, and that's not what's on your mind at this moment, okay, It may be on your mind in a year, 2 years, 3, 4, 5, whatever, but I think it should be in there somewhere, you know, but you just need a place to stay. And so to me, whether you buy or you don't, I just think you should keep abreast of what is happening in your area as far as rent is concerned, what is happening in your area as far as home prices, what is happening as far as interest rates and things of that nature. Even if you're not looking at buying for another 2 or 3 years, you need to be in the know, and you need to be keeping your credit or attempting to repair or keeping your credit together that whole time. Because as soon as that time is right just for you, you want to be able to walk through that door. So that's what I would say about that. Is always a good time to actually buy real estate. Somebody's buying something and somebody's always selling.
Thank
You have
you
anything
so
to say about that, Jill?
I think she may.
No, I'm here. I'm multitasking. Yes. I agree with what Tisha is saying, particularly right now with not only the market, with there being fewer homes available. As long as you have a roof over your head, that's the most important thing. However, if you can check off the boxes, you have a credit score that will qualify you. And I know that Janine probably has programs where you can qualify with as little as a 580 credit score, I think. Janine, can correct me if I'm wrong. I know that they do with some lenders down here in Florida. And, you know, you can verify your income, where you've been on your job for a certain amount of time. I always encourage home ownership. And as one of the ladies stated, I'm not sure if it was Janine or Tisha, it will not look like the home that you would have purchased 2 or 3 years ago, depending on the amount of home that you qualify for your purchase price. However, if this is your first home, it's just a start. And I always encourage my first time home buyers to keep that in mind. Your goal is to find a home, spend a few years in that home, and then you become the landlord and use the rent from that home to pay the mortgage on your upgraded property. So you want to start as early as possible with home ownership so that by the time you retire or before retirement, you've paid off at least one home, maybe even 2, and now you own multiple properties. And then you can retire early. Okay, so I want you to think about not only just being a homeowner, but being an investor ultimately.
Because people always need a place to live, so.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much. But I don't know if you have heard about the human infrastructure that they're working on with the bill, the 3.5 billion.
Yes, you're talking about Biden's tax credit. That is legislation. It has not been enacted as of yet. So it could be at least another 12 to 24 months before that bill actually becomes law.
And you don't know if it will be retroactive for those who bought a house like in 2021?
No, it's not going to be retroactive. Those programs always go forward.
And you know, they talked about 25,000 and 15,000. The 25,000 were for first-time home buyers, first generation.
That is correct.
But again, you say
go ahead.
And you said it may take 12 to 24 months.
That is correct. So what will mean is that that money will be for those home buyers going forward after that bill has passed.
Okay. Thank you so much. It's good to know.
And I would like to also state real quick, if you are renting right now, you're on time right now by chance, and you are in your lease and you are thinking, I think I want to move. Number one, run down why you want to move, okay? Because what is about to happen, unfortunately, with the slew of evictions that we're going to have, some of the people that unfortunately are going to go into foreclosure at some point within these next 12 months, we're going to have so many people in the market as a her. So what happens is you're going to be, as is going on right now, competing, right, against each other for a home. So I need you to dissect whether or not, if your lease is coming up, does it make sense for me to renew my lease to make sure I actually have a place, you know, before going out, or you make sure you secure that place as fast as you can. And then if you have to stay where you are, they may go up a little bit on that rent because that's what they like to do. They may go up on that rent, but hopefully it's not as much as what it will cost you if you are out there on that market looking. So, and I know that's kind of not what the type of advice real estate agents typically give you. They say, oh yeah, come on, let's buy. You know what I mean? But if right now you have to rent, we want to make sure you actually do have a place to live, because it's going to get tight out here in Clayton County. Even if you are 100% on time and you are still looking for another place, it's going to get tight. They can ask for $1,200 in rent. That doesn't stop someone from coming and saying, you know what, you said 12. Well, how about I pay you 14, 20? Are you okay with that? Is there any landlord that's going to turn it away? No, because there are going to be so many people needing a place to stay. They're going to be willing more than likely to treat the rent side like they've been doing the purchase side. You listed for $259, but people are offering you $273, right? There's nothing that stops that from happening. So just kind of think it through, okay? Before making a decision, your lease is coming up due. Do I stay? Do I go? You know, does it make sense? Think it, just think it through. That's all I have to say. We've all gone over time and we're at close to that.
Would you ladies put your information in the chat box if they choose to call or need to ask you additional questions? As I say, I think we just need to have, man, a couple more of these. This has been so informative. I learn so much every time, but I know, and Tisha, you know where we're located. I do. If we can circumvent as much of this as we can by information, because information is power, and educate our people, because the time is moving so fast. We'll be September the 1st in 2 days. So if you ladies are willing to come on again, and we do this again just to keep people abreast, but I really appreciate you coming on and the knowledge you have shared. It has been so valuable, and I hope the people that were on, that you have received some valuable information. Please go share it with someone, that if you see this pop up again as offered to you, it's not just for Harper parents. I put it out to the community at large, all of our stakeholders, anybody, your family members. You can tell them, anybody who you know may be in this situation or may be facing it. Please share it. And I cannot thank you. Thank you, Miss Dorset, for joining in to help us as well. Thank you, Tisha. Of course, you do so much to support our school. And Miss Hunter, it's great to meet you. Nice. And sometime in the future, when we get past all of this, maybe we can start our classes back again, Tisha, where we had the loan officers, and we had a good little roll going, and had to stop, but we can continue virtually, because I think this part, like you said, the counseling, please, parents, tap into someone to talk to. Your mental health is number one. And these ladies can help, or it's always someone out there to give you help as well. Just reach out. Don't be ashamed. Don't be afraid. We've all been through some part, be a foreclosure before and what have you. So you can rebound. You can rebound. So thank you so much. If that is it, they have put their information in the chat box. However, you have Miss Coleman's information, you can always get me and we can get you what you need. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you, as always. And I like to thank you all for coming on tonight. And like I said, I know we went over, but you know, we just had so much that we kind of wanted to touch on. And even if you come back another time, I understand there may be new people. And so we may be repeating, you know, some of this same information at some point to just make sure, you know, that it gets out. So you may say, oh, I heard this already, you know, but we just want to make sure you got it,
Yes.
that you have the information. So like Ms. Coleman said, I'm sure Janine, I'm going to go ahead and speak for, she's going to be available. I'm going to be available, right? You know, and you can contact us any time. Okay.
Thank you. Have a great evening, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Ryan, Sarah, good luck. Let's kick off the